Namaste. Welcome to another edition of Navavimarsh podcast. So, thank you for all of you joining in. Namaste, Retrowave. Namaste, Hindu Chada Didi. So, I have been live after I think few days. Was not doing well, so took some break from podcasting and also from work. But now I am back. So today we have a very interesting topic that I wanted to discuss. For 3 4 days, we have seen a lot of news coming in from Balochistan and the train hijack and the other issues which are there. So it was very happening in social media as well as in normal general media itself, the legacy media, TV and print. But one thing which I observed, which actually bit disturbed me, that although we are very excited about what's happening in Balochistan, and we really feel for the people, the Balochi people, what they have gone through with the Pakistani army and the state, the way they have been suppressed. But the historical perspective, and also uh, how the conflict has shaped over the years, and the root of the conflict, that is something which is not being discussed or not being actually also enumerated, elaborated in detail. As we all say, if you don't know the history, you will not get the picture that you need to deserve and you need to know to actually understand the conflict from a humanitarian, from the political, and also from the perspective of nation-state relationships. So on that front, so I thought, okay, why don't we discuss some specific books that have been written on Balochistan conflict. There are actually in a lot of books written by Pakistan journalists, written by Pakistani intellectuals, books written by Indian diplomats, books written by people outside. So there's a lot of variety of books which are written. So I had actually shortlisted. So I'll give you. Let me just share my screen with you. Yeah. So now, do let me know if you can see the screen and if there's able to read it, because I may have to increase the font little bit for people to read. Okay, do let me know if you can read it. Namaste everyone, and a very happy Holi to everybody. I did not play Holi because I was not doing well, but I did use Chandan to actually smear myself over the face. Actually, celebrate a virtual Holi. So happy Holi to everybody. Hope you had a very good day celebrating with your family and friends. Ram Ram Didi. So if you can see here, Shubh Holi. Very good. So if you can see here, so there are a number of books. So of all these books, actually I have gone through a few of them. So I have actually shortlisted three books which actually address the root cause of the Baloch insurgency or the militancy, and also a kind of freedom struggle that they have been waging since 1947 onwards. And this Baloch conflict actually dates back pre-partition days. So when in 1947, when India was to be partitioned, before the partition actually took place in 1947, 14th August, Pakistan had its independence, and in India got its independence from the British in 15th August. But pre 14th and 15th August, there were a lot of things happening in the back end which related to the princely states on the in primarily in India and in Pakistan, West Pakistan, not East Pakistan. East Pakistan didn't had the kind of princely states which was there, but there were a lot of small princely states within the West Pakistan and India itself. So these are the books which I actually went through and consulted, and on the reading itself, I thought let's discuss few chapters of this book. So as you see in the title of the podcast today, Rise of Baloch Nationalism, What's Next for Pakistan, a Historical Perspective. So we are going to we are going to discuss first the historical perspective of Baloch conflict, the land, people, and the political dimension of it. So do keep your comments and questions. So we'll take them, and also we will open up the stream for people who wants to join. So let me just quickly paste the link. People who want to join the stream, they can join and discuss few points. And straightforward, I'm going to go ahead and read the first chapter of a book. And this is a very important book. So I'm going to share my screen again. So this is a book which is a very important book, and it actually talks about and addresses a lot of historical, political, and cultural things which the Baloch conflict is about, which has not been discussed. So this is going to be a very session where we discuss the documented things. So not my opinion, not your opinion, the opinion of the scholars who have written the books on it. So this is the first book. This book is name is The Baloch Conflict with Iran and Pakistan. A lot of people would know, and many people would not know, that Balochistan consists of areas of now Pakistan, and this other Balochistan which is in Iran. So the Baloch conflict that we see today is only in Pakistan, which has a political and bit of a military perspective. But there's one more Baloch conflict going on. The Balochi people, the Balochi culturally linguistic people of, I think it's called, Sistan province in Iran. So in that context, and that is something which is not talked about a lot, but it is there. So people who read books will know about it. So here we go. Okay, do let me know if you can see the screen properly, so that we can continue. Do let me know if the screen I need to just increase or zoom in a little bit more. Let me do a little bit more itself. So if you can see the map here. So this is Balochistan, and this is you have Iran. This is the Sindh border. So this is the Balochistan province that we see today. It is there in Pakistan. And here it also shares a border with Afghanistan. It shares border with Iran. And on the west side, you have the Sindh province. Now, I'm going to read. So this book is written by Nasir Dashti. Now I'm going to go and skip to the, this is very important, which is we need to understand. The forward by the author, not by the author, but by a Sindhi activist. Many regions of Asia and Africa are engulfed in bloody conflicts between various national entities in multinational states. This is because of mistaken and short-sighted policies of the colonial powers, which they adopted in the process of granting independence to their colonies after Second World War. In order to safeguard their vital economic and strategic interests, they drew artificial borders, created many artificial states, amalgamated different nations into newly independent countries. This not only caused misery to nations incorporated into states against their will. This is a very important point, against their will, but originated endless and protracted conflicts between various national entities. The Baloch are among the victims of the mess created by the colonial powers in South Central Asia. Their position is an extremely complex one. Their land, Balochistan, is divided into three different countries. They have been facing the might of two religious states, and their future is as distinct their future as a distinct national entity is in danger with the increased assimilation policies of Iran and Pakistan. As I mentioned, so the Balochistan, the physical landmass of Balochistan is actually divided between Iran and Pakistan. The Baloch conflict with Iran and Pakistan is one of the bloodiest in the contemporary history of national liberation movements. It is certain that this conflict would be the cause of a regional tension and destabilization in a strategically important but politically volatile region of the world. This book is a logical continuation of Dr. Nasir Dashti's previous book, The Baloch, The Baloch and Balochistan, published in 2012, which deals with the history of the Baloch nation until the annexation of Baloch states of Kalat by Pakistan in 1948. So the Kalat state, which was part of Baloch landmass, Baloch geographically, which was an independent state directly administered by the South Hall in Britain. But Pakistan illegally had invaded and actually occupied the land, occupied the state of Kalat. The present research work by Dr. Dashti would certainly remedy the lack of reliable and up-to-date information about the Baloch national question in both countries. This analytical work covers historical, political, social, and economic aspects of the Baloch struggle for the national sovereignty. The author approaches the relevant aspects of the issue in a wider theoretical perspective while furnishing original accounts of the events. I believe this book will be an invaluable source of reference for those who are interested in the affairs of South Central Asia. This book is the labor of love of the author for his people. So the author is a Balochi, ethnic Balochi, and motherland, and will be reference for all those who want to change the future of Baloch nation by understanding and learning from historical processes, strengths, weaknesses, and mistakes in the struggle of Baloch people that culminated to the present situation. Dr. Lakmal Luhana, Secretary General, World Sindhi Congress, London, 2017. Okay, fine. Now I am going to now reference one more book. I'll go back to three books time to time to actually give a historical perspective because all the books I will actually cover a lot of things. But today, yeah, Shekhar, you can come. So that we're going to do back and forth between three books. So the second book that we're going to talk about is, let me share the screen. So the second book that we're going to reference today, some chapters of it would be Pakistan, the Balochistan Conundrum by Tilak Deveshwar. As you people, many of you would know, uh, Tilak Deveshwar is one of the foremost authority on Pakistan, and he has written many books on both of them. So he was a former career diplomat, and when he retired, he wrote many books. So I think his books are quite an authority on the subject. And the third book that we're going to refer, the third book we'll refer is a book by Francesca Marino, Balochistan, Bruised, Battered, and Bloodied. So these three books, I would request everybody to, if you want to know the history of the Baloch movement, its people, its culture, the politics, and the scenes we have seen today. If you want to understand more of it, you can consult these books, buy the books wherever you can. I have few books already there in my library. Unfortunately, I can't have it right now, but it's there. The physical books are there, and also it's available as a PDF copy or as a e-copy, so you can get them. So now I am going to go back to the book by Tilak Deveshwar, where he talks about Pakistan and Balochistan conundrum. So now I am going to read. So now we have talked, now we know where the Balochistan stands geographically and the people itself. And now we are going to talk about the Balochi people themselves, who they are. So I'm going to read again from the book Pakistan, the Balochistan Conundrum by Mr. Tilak Deveshwar. The people. Balochistan is a multi-ethnic province consisting of Baloch concentrated mostly in the south and southwest, the Bravi, an ethnic group of Dravidian. So Bravi is a an ethnic group of Dravidian origin based in central Balochistan, and Pashtuns in the north. In the 1901 census, the British showed the Baloch and the Bravi as separate ethnic groups. According to it, the Baloch were less numerous than both Bravi and Pashtuns. The exact numbers were Baloch 80,000, Bravi 300,000, Pashtuns 200,000. The census figure further stated that the number of Baloch staying outside Balochistan in Sindh and Punjab were almost a million, 950,000. According to 1998 census, the province hosted about 5% of Pakistan's population. Of this, the ethnic Baloch, including the Bravi, formed 54.7% of percent and Pashtuns 29.6% of the population, with the rest divided between Punjabis, Hazaras, and others. In other words, the ethnic Baloch formed only 3.5% of the total population of Pakistan, while the province formed almost 44% of the area of Pakistan. This unique demographic cum territorial configuration necessitates that for any development effort to be successful, there has to be much higher per capita expenditure as compared to other provinces. Historically, this need was not recognized at the national level until the 7th National Finance Commission Award in 2009. 2009, I think Musharraf was about to go out of power, or he was in power. So that time it took place. The Baloch are spread around the province in 22,000 settlements that range from capital city of Quetta to a sprinkling of small hamlets having less than 500 houses. Over the two-thirds of its inhabitants reside in rural areas, whereas half of its urban population is concentrated in Quetta, Huzar, Turbat, Hub, and Chaman. The areas primarily consist of scattered settlements of sparse populations. The average population density of province is 19% per square kilometer and varies greatly across the districts. A large number of Baloch reside outside the province, especially in Karachi. It is believed that the Baloch population in Karachi could well exceed that in Balochistan itself. Who are the Baloch? The exact meaning and origin of the term Baloch is somewhat cloudy. According to the Imperial Gazetteer, the word Baloch means wanderer or nomad. This view was also populated by G.P. Tate, the then Assistant Superintendent Survey of India, who held that the name has historically meant nomads. It would therefore be a synonym for Bedouin. Another view is that the word Baloch is corrupted form of Melukha or Melukha, Melucha or Mlecha, which was the designation of the modern Eastern Makran during the third and second millennia BC. According to Mesopotamian text, Munir Ahmed Gichki, a professor of history at Balochistan University, however, relates to a Okay, Jedrosia or Bedrosia, the name of the Baloch country in the time of Alexander. Okay, so Bedrosia or Jedrosia, the name of the Baloch country in the time of Alexander the Great, 356 to 223 BC. Muhammad Sardar Khan theorized that the term Baloch is a derivative of Belus, the title of Babylonians or Chaldean kings. Nimrud, the son of Kush or Kuth, was called Nimrud the Belus. The followers of Nimrud were known as Belusi. Among the Arabs, Belusis were pronounced as Balos. Thus, the word Baloch has come from Belusi or Balos, Sadar Khan argues. Taj Muhammad Briz- Taj Muhammad Brizij, a Baloch historian, quotes the Kurdish scholar Muhammad Amin Teraji, who believes that the term Baloch is the corrupted form of the term Baroque or Baroz, arguing on the origin and the meaning of the term. Seraji says the Baroz has a common meaning both in Kurdish and Balochi, which means the land of the rising sun, Baroch or towards sun. Located at the easternmost corner of the Median Empire, the country probably got the designation Baroch or Baroz during the Median or the early Achaemenid era, believes Seraji. According to him, there are several tribes living in eastern Kurdistan who are called Barozi because of their eastward location in the region. Etymology apart, there are two competing theories on the historical origin of Baloch. The first states that the Baloch are native people who have been described as the Oritans, the Jats, the Medas, etc. In ancient records, the second states that the Baloch migrated into the area from Syria some 2000 years ago. The dispute is likely to keep historians busy for a long time. What is interesting about the debate is that it was joined by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who presented the memorandum of the government of Kalat to the British cabinet mission in 1946. In it, the Arab origin for the Baloch was claimed. Thus, in para 6, the memo states, in the first place, ethnographically, the people of Kalat and of the territories under its suzerainty have no affinities with the people of India. The ruling family of Kalat is of Arab origin and not, as usually stated, of Bruhic extraction. So Bruhi is again an ethnic group with their own language extraction. They belong to the Ahmedzai branch of the Mirwari clan, which originally immigrated from Iran to the Kolwa Valley of Makran. Apart from the Brahvis, apart from Brahvis are ethnically, linguistically a distinctive group living within the landmass of Balochistan. All the important and influential tribes are also non-Indian origin. The Murri and the Bukti tribes, who occupy the most southern buttress uh, of the Suleiman Mountains, are Rind Baluchis, almost certainly of Arab extraction. They came to Sindh either with the Arab conquerors or after them, and remained mixed up with the original Hindu inhabitants. In short, the history of the origin of Baloch people is shrouded in controversy, primarily due to the absence of authentic documented source material. Not surprisingly, Mir Ahmed Yar Khan Baloch, the Khan of Kalat, wrote, authorities on the subject have not been able to state anything authentic about the exact origin of the Balochi. Whether an indigenous people or a migratory one, the Baloch have lived in the area of Balochistan since at least start of Christian era. The central market that unites the Baloch community is more or less well articulated conception of all Baloch as descended from a common ancestor, thus constituting a Qom nation. The Baloch claim to descend from a single ancestor, Amir Hamza, the uncle of Prophet Muhammad, and can prove it to their full full satisfaction with genealogical tables, ballads, and traditions. The same is true of the Braves, who also claim to descend from a single ancestor, Braho or Ibrahim from Aleppo. Based on study of different views on the origin of Baloch, Inayatullah Baloch concludes that it would be true to say that the present-day Baloch are perhaps not a single race but are people of different origins whose language belongs to the Iranian family of languages. According to him, the Baloch are mixed with Arabs in the south, Indians in the east, Turkmen and other uh, Altai groups in the northwest, and in the coastal area, a mixture of Iranian, Assyrian, and Negro stock. In 1890, Sir Edward Oliver, a British colonial officer who had washed, okay, in 1890, Sir Edward Oliver, a British colonial officer who had served in Balochistan, described Baloch tribesmen as essentially a nomad, good-looking, frank, with well-cut features, black and well-oiled flowing hair and beard, attired in a smock frock that is theoretically white but never is washed to save on the rare occasions when he goes to Darbar. This is how Sylvia Matheson described a Baloch, just 21 years old, Sardar Akbar Shahbaz Khan Bukti, uh, Tumandar, Tumandar of the warrior Bukti tribe, was a sight of gladden the eyes of any romantically inclined girl. He was well over 6 feet tall, with a magnificent head of thick, shining black curly hair and beard to match, lively, intelligent eyes, a humorous mouth, what could be seen as under the superb curing, curling moustache and beard, and fine, clean-cut features, almost impossible good-looking in fact. Baloch ethnic groups. The Baloch are divided into 17 groups and some 400 subgroupings. Of the 17, two major groups are Eastern or Suleiman Baloch, who are the larger of the two groups, and Western or Makran Baloch, who have traditionally been viewed as original nucleus of Baloch people. Thus, so understand when we are talking about the Baloch movement for independence from Pakistan, we need to understand that they are primarily tribes people who are nomads in general. They lived a nomad life, and as with tribes people, there will be lot of tribes with who have their own niche space, their own specific culture and customs. Yeah, okay. Now, hmm, the Suleiman Baloch include the tribes of Buktis. So, what we're going to read now is going to be the people who are fighting the war as of now. So, the Suleiman Baloch include the tribes of Buktis, Buzdars, uh, Dombis, Kaheris, Khetrans, Maxis, Mari. So, this Mari tribe, the Mari tribe and the Buktis tribe are the bigger in number, and they are also politically very influential. Mugheris, Rins, Umarines, while the Makran are made up of the Beludi Dashti. The author of the previous book was a Dashti. Kikis, Kandiyas, Rayas, oh, Rakshasinis, okay, Rins, Sagus, and Sanjarinis. Traditionally, the Rins have been regarded as being the top of the pecking order, though it is the Bugtis and the Maris who have become dominant in modern Baloch politics and being at the center of the recent unrest, as we had talked about, that the Bugtis and the Maris are the now politically and also financially dominant group within the Baloch tribe itself. The Maris, who control almost 9,000 square kilometers of land and are Balochistan's largest tribe, they number 134,000, consider themselves Balochistan's master tribe. Among the Brahvis, who are found in the central mountain region south of Quetta, there are three subdivisions: the Brahvi nucleus, the Jhalwan Brahvis, and the Sarwan Brahvis. The Brahvi nucleus tribe include the Ahmedzai, uh, Bangulzai, Bizenjo. Bizenjo is again a well-known name. Bizenjo, Gurgari, Iltazai, Kalandari, Kambrani, Mengal. Again, Mengals are now quite influential politically and otherwise. Mirwari, Raisani, Rodeni, and Sumalari. The Ahmedzais occupy the top of the social hierarchy among Brahvi, and it is the tribe of the Khan of Kalat. Though uh, though a Jalwani tribe, the Mengals have become though a Jalwani tribe, the Mengals have become the powerful player in Balochistan politics. Most of the tribes are bilingual and are quite fluent both in Balochi and Brahvi languages. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, there is a nucleus of eight Brahvi tribes to which to which other people have been affiliated so that the number of tribes has swelled to 29. Mir Ahmed Yar Khan, the Khan of Kalat, calls the Baloch and the Brahvis two groups of the same people. The group, which was originally called Ibrahimi Balochis, is now pronounced as Brahvi Balochis. Tribal system. Despite the tough geography, difficulties in communication, as well as differences in language and dialect among various Baloch groups, a specific tribal, political, social, and economic organization developed over the centuries. The tribal system, in fact, is the very basis of Baloch society and culture and has shaped the general structure of Baloch life and institutions. Tribal loyalties based on common descent continue to dominate the Baloch society to a large extent. The allegiance of most of the Baloch have been to their extended families, clans, and tribes. According to Shahbaz Khan Mazari, a Baloch politician, in a tribal culture, lineage counts for everything, and one's roots are inextricably linked with the present. Heritage invariably and other invisibly and often invisibly shapes and forms the contours of one's life. So lineage and heritage both are very important in a tribal society. According to Taj Muhammad Brisich, tribal ties, however, are of little significance in Makran, both Pakistani and Iranian Balochistan. In southern Balochistan, neither can the Kutchi Plains in the east, nor Lasbela in the southernmost part of Balochistan be characterized as tribal. In contrast, tribal social structure is important in Dera Bukti, Kohlu, Barkan, in Kalat and Khuzar districts in central Pakistani Balochistan. Northern Iranian Balochistan Sarhad, southern Afghanistan, Nimruz, and even to some extent in the rural areas of Sindh and Punjabi. The tribal society has traditional tribal society has created hurdles in the development of Baloch nationalism, since loyalties of tribal members extend to individual tribes rather than national entities no, or a political ideology. An individual's identity is based on his belongings to a tribe and not the nation. The failure of different tribes to unite in the cause of Baloch nationalism has been due to this strong element of tribal loyalties. As a result, a unified nationalist movement could not take shape in the run up to the creation of Pakistan in 1947 and the forced accession of province. Some Baloch leaders did try to articulate a sense of common ethnic identity, but it was the endeavor of only a few and failed to catch the imagination of most of the Baloch. In recent years, a new non-tribal leadership has emerged from among the Baloch. This cuts across different regions and social economic classes. These nationalists are towing a separate line and urging the Sardars or the chiefdoms, who actually control the political and economic power within the Baloch region. Sardars to leave their individual goals and champion the nationalist causes. As has been well put, the process of horizontalization of the Balochi society and polity may have just begun. The Baloch nationalists may have embarked upon a long journey ahead. Given these constraints, the current rise of the non-tribal or pan-tribal nationalist movements is a very significant development. The dilemma of the nationalists is that tribal support remains an important element for success of a nationalist movement, which also makes them susceptible to tribal rivalries. Let me check a few comments here. Yeah. Okay. I'll continue reading, and then if people want to join, let me just pin the comment. Let me just see. Just pin the on the chat so that people can actually see. Interesting. Okay, pin option is not showing up. Anyway, I'll again pin it for everybody. So not an issue. Let it be as it is. Tribal rivalries. Balochistan has a history of inter-tribal feuds that have given birth to long-lasting wars between the tribes. A critical feud was Nawab Bukti's fight with another Bukti sub-tribe, the Kalpars. As a result, Amir Hamza Bukti, the son of Kalpar Vadera. So Vadera is a not really sure how to define it. Okay, but it's a kind of a sub-tribe within themselves. Kalpar Vadera was assassinated. The Kalpars took revenge by assassinating Nawab Bukti's youngest son. In the ensuing skirmishes, thousands of Kalpars had to flee Bukti area with government support. So if you can imagine that although the Baloch considered themselves not to be part of the Pakistan state itself, but they were unable to mount a movement, a politically concerted movement in a way, and that was due to their tribal loyalties and tribal feud. So it is very important to understand also from the our context, from the Hindu context, that okay, uh, the Hindu society is very diverse, and the language, the food, where we live is very different. So uniting these diverse people is very difficult in and it takes time over time. So we will see. We will see after 10-15 minutes. I'll go to one more chapter where we're going to now move towards the 1970s movement, where the real struggle actually started. As Mr. Deveshwar mentions, that these tribal loyalties actually created a kind of a hindrance to create a considerate, coherent nationalist movement for independence, which they wanted at all the time. But because of their tribal loyalties and disloyalties, they could not create a political movement which could be sustained over a long period of time. And you need that. Okay. We have. Hello. Yeah, you are there. You are live. Can you hear me? No. Your audio is not there. Check your audio. No audio. Audience, do you have the audio? Audience, could you just check whether I can't hear you? Yeah. Can you speak now? Your audio is no audio, no audio. Could you just rejoin? You can rejoin. No issue. Okay. We'll see the reading and we will see if the audience comes. So we will discuss a few things. Mm. Yeah. Okay. Thousands of Kalparis had to flee the Bukti area with government support. Such was the animosity that even a lawyer from Lahore who was defending Kalpars accused of killing the Nawab's son was gunned down in Quetta in June 1995. Other tribal rivalries included Bukti and versus Ahmedans, Bukti versus Mazaris, Bukti versus Raisanis, Ghazni versus Bijranis, Madi versus Lunis, and Rind versus Raisinis. This is very important, the Sardari system. Okay. At the core of Baloch tribal structure is the Sardari system. According to Taj Muhammad Brisiji, the Sardari system appears to have had its origins in the Mughal period of Indian history, but it is believed to have assumed its present shape rather late during the period of British colonial rule. Under the centuries-old system, tribesmen pledge their allegiance to Sardars or tribal chiefs in exchange for social justice and maintenance of the integrity of the tribe. The Sardars, in turn, pledged their loyalty to the Khan of Kalar and defended the Khan's Khanat against any outside attack or provided Khan with material and moral help during his campaigns. It was a well federated system operating through tribal loyalty and patronage. Uh, give me a minute. I need to check and take this call. So just I'll take a 2 minute break. Yeah, I am back. Under the centuries-old system, tribesmen pledged their allegiance to Sardars, the tribal chiefs, in exchange for social justice and maintenance of the integrity of the tribe. The Sardars, in turn, pledged their loyalty to the Khan of Kalar and defended the Khan's and Khanate against any outside attack or province. The Khan was material in more help during the campaigns. It was a well-federated system operating through tribal loyalty and patronage. According to Martin Axman, the Sardari system represented the keystone of British indirect rule in Balochistan. As I mentioned earlier, the area, the Khan of Kalat physical area, which was this was not governed by the Viceroy of India. This was directly governed by the South Hall by the Queen itself. Without Sardari collaboration, British control of region would have been impossible. Unlike the egalitarianism of Pashtun tribal organizations, the Baloch Sardar system was hereditary and Sardar, a tribal chief, exercised absolute and unquestioned control over his fellow tribesmen. He functioned as a chief executive, legislator, and judge. The Sardar even controlled the social life of his subjects, and consequently, out of fear or revenge, the Baloch gave un, unwavering, unwavering loyalty to him. The Sardar's extraordinary authority within this structure probably stemmed from the essentially military character of early Baloch tribal society. From the Sardar, power flowed downward to Vaderas, the section chiefs, and beyond them to subordinate clan and sub-clan leaders of the lesser tribal units. Thus, for the tribesmen, the concept of nation state and obedience to central governments under which they lived had little meaning. Ordinary Baloch were resigned to the rule by the Sardars and were characterized by British as slaves of the Sardars. It is a land that is ruled so autocratically by its Nawabs that, in the words of the historian Charles Cheney Trench, an oath of innocence taken with one's hand on the Nawab's head was always accepted. Mm. The Jirga, a tribal gathering, is and remains an integral part of tribal structure. I think Jirga is also common in Pashtuns. Under the British, Sir Robert Sandman introduced a new kind of jirga, the Shahi Jirga, the Grand Council or the Council of the main tribal Sardars for the area under their control. The British Balochistan, in this jirga, only Sardars and aristocrats could be members. The Shahi Jirga was held at Quetta, Sibbi, and Fort Monroe once or twice a year. The new jirga could impose taxes on property and labor. Okay, let me see. Yeah, Slevin, can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Ye- Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, great. Uh, so lovely joining with you guys and happy Holi to everyone. And thank you. Uh,
Yes,
wanted to,
so you have something to say?
wanted to share an interesting tidbit that I know about the Balochis.
Yes,
So,
please go ahead.
uh, so during the Third Panipat War, there were a
Mm-hmm.
lot of civilians who had gone along with the army. And
Mm-hmm.
the uh, Ahmad Shah Abdali, he caught off many of them and he took them back to Afghanistan. And over there, because they were so large in quantity, he distributed them among the tribes because you can't keep everyone together. And he
Mm-hmm.
distributed some in Balochistan. And even today, there are tribes that are Maratha Bhukti. They
Mm-hmm.
all had to convert to Islam, and their tribes' names are Peshwani Maratha, who are the relatives of the Peshwa, Bukti
Mm-hmm.
Maratha, Chau Maratha, Musani Maratha, Nothani Maratha, Kalpar Maratha, Shambani Maratha. So, like we have a Maharashtrian connection, they still use the same word for mother as we in Maharashtra do, I, and not
Mm-hmm.
Ammi Jaan or like the Urdu version or whatever. And they also do the haldi function before the wedding. So
Okay,
that
that's very interesting. So
Yeah.
this is documented in any books or any things, because like when I was searching, like normally you will get the Brohi language things, which has a Indian like a Telugu language like a connection, but not the Maratha one.
So I found a bunch of articles on YouTube, and this is known in
Mm-hmm.
Maharashtra because of our
Mm-hmm.
history. So we know that. But on YouTube, there are videos of people of those community, and there was one interesting one where there were a bunch of guys, and they were saying, over here we are not allowed to say Shivaji Maharaj ki Jai, but they want to say that, but they can't, or hold Shiv Jayanti and all that because it's now they are Muslims, they are living over there, but they still want to say Shivaji Maharaj ki Jai and do Shiv Jayanti or when is Shivaji Maharaj
Mm-hmm.
birthday sort of thing. So that was very interesting. Like I feel sorry for them that they are trapped over there because they are all sort of our relatives or like from my state only. But
Yes, actually, like we were reading one more book, The Corporate Life of Institution India, by R.C. Mujumdar, and actually he had mentioned mentioned that okay, like in ancient India, people were actually very mobile. So when we see the propaganda regarding the caste structure as a kind of a rigid structure, so in ancient India, people actually would move. Like there will be people of mercenaries who will be going there place to place to fight for people for money, and for same reason, people, artisans, warriors, businessmen would travel to different places, and they will go and settle there itself. So it's very interesting that okay, people forcefully were taken there and they had to convert, and they took new names. But it's interesting that okay, when we talk about as a kind of a Maharashtrian identity or a Bengali identity or a Tamil identity, so we don't realize that okay, that identity is built over a time, but that also is a kind of a amalgamation of many other people coming in together. So genetically, we are very diverse even within Tamil Nadu, very nearby. So you have Madurai, one places there. So there, the people who are doing the handloom work, these are actually not native Tamil people, but now they have become Tamil themselves. So we see this kind of scattered people who different places
okay, so
Yeah, I think it
it
is
is
back.
breaking.
It is back. There is
Yeah,
some
there was
connection
a
issue. Yeah, thank you for this. Yeah, can you just share the link so that I can this?
okay. Before leaving, I'll just
Hmm.
share the link to an article that I found on
Hmm.
the internet.
Hmm.
And thank you for having me. And happy Holi once again to everyone. And bye
Yeah,
bye.
happy Holi to you as well. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Okay, so this was a very interesting information that is shared by Slevin. That there are Maratha ethnic Maratha who are now living in Balochistan. So now we'll go back to our reading, and in about 10 minutes of it. So we'll just finish this one very quickly. Yeah. The new jirga could impose taxes on property and labor. Only the political agent could review the decisions of scribed by Jan Muhammad. The Shahi jirga was a shrewd mechanism of indirect rule with powers vested in a few carefully selected tribal elders loyal to British and ready to act against their own people. In 1968, under Ayub Khan criminal law criminal law special provisions ordinance 1968, the Jarga system was legally recognized in B areas. So in Balochistan, as per the Pakistani government, there are actually A areas and B areas. So there are two specific regions were there in Pakistan. One was the Northwest Frontier province, which became a kind of a Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and there's one specific region which is bordering Afghanistan and Pakistan, which was actually not governed by the law of Pakistan itself. Yeah, so apart from Punjab, Sindh, the other two provinces, the tribal provinces of and Baloch live. So the law of Pakistan is actually not applied equally to all areas. So they have called A areas and B areas. So in 1968, under Ayub Khan government's Criminal Law Special Provisions Ordinance 1968, the Jirga system was legally recognized in B areas. All disputes would be settled through Jirgas. The Sadare system was outlawed on 8 April 1976 by Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. This was an attempt to reduce the power of various tribal chiefs so as to enable the forcible incorporation of the various tribes into mainstream Pakistan's political, economic, and social life. However, though weakened, the system continued to exist in Balochistan. Bhutto, moreover, did not repeal the 1968 Jirga ordinance that was applicable in B areas that constituted 95% of Balochistan. So if you just calculate it, from 1947 onwards till 1968 and beyond that, the B area constitutes 95% of the Balochistan state itself, the Balochistan province. So it means the writ of Pakistan, the law of Pakistan was not applied on 95% of Balochistan province. So when people say that okay, Balochistan is a integral part of Pakistan, virtually and literally, the law of Pakistan did not apply to these areas, 95% of the area of Balochistan province since independence, literally. It was only in 1990 that the Balochistan High Court struck down the ordinance of 1968, thereby abolishing the justice system administered through Jarga. Interestingly, while the Sardars are blamed for continuation of the system, the reality is somewhat different. In June 1972, the leader of the House, Sardar Ataullah Mengal, moved a resolution in the Balochistan Assembly demanding that the federal government abolish the Sardari, the Jirga, and the tribal system since provincial assembly did not have the authority to do so. The federal government took no action in this regard, and about 8 months later, on 14 February 1973, the National Awami Party government, which was responsible for presenting the resolution in the assembly, was overthrown and a military operation was launched in Balochistan. The resolution moved by Ataullah Mengal read, now that the tribal system has lost its advantage, keeping it instated is going to act as a hurdle in the development of the people of these tribes. Speaking during the debate, Gul Khan Nasir, the nationalist poet, said, Mr. Speaker, as long as this institution remains, even as a vestige, it will keep our nation divided into various tribes and sub-tribes, which will render it impossible for us to achieve economic progress. So it was in the interest of the Pakistani state to keep the system, the Jirga system, which kept the Baloch divided into sub-tribal groups so that they could not assert their political and economic powers, and this would also help to make sure that they are divided so that they could not gather and create a national consensus, a conscience of their own. Ironically, the policy of the federal government to deny e- essentials of provincial autonomy has strengthened the tribal system. The Sardars continue to influence the justice system and working of the police. The Sardari system will not disappear unless the grievances related to provincial rights are removed. So long as this does not happen, the people will continue to bear the load of archaic social structures despite their manifest and unhappiness with them. Now, I'll go and check chat. Now I'll go to the another part of it. So now we know the Balochi people and the Balochi system, how they evolve over time. Now we will go into the modern conflict that we see today. So now we'll come into the conflict part of it. So where the conflict stems from. So in the modern context, when we see the train hijack which happened a few days ago in Balochistan, the root of this problem lies 70 years ago or maybe more now, but the current shape of the conflict is primarily political and economic. And in the economic part of it, the Chinese play a very important role. And that is one of the most primary instigators, where the all the Balochi people who were tribals in nature actually gathered together as a single entity, as a political entity, and fight the Pakistani state and also the state. Let me just check. Hmm. So now we're going to talk about the Gawadar port, where China has built a naval port. The word Gawadar is derived from the Balochi words Guat, air, Tar, door, or gateway. Taken together, Gwadar means gateway of wind, and Gwadar is one of the focal points of this conflict, economically, and also politically. Gwadar is situated on a naturally hammerhead-shaped peninsula. So hammerhead shark. If you have no hammerhead shark, you will know that it's like uh, a kind of arch. Okay. So Gwadar is situated on a natural hammerhead-shaped peninsula, forming two semicircular bays on either side of the southern western Arabian Sea coast of Pakistan. The western bay is known as Paddizir and is generally shallow with an average depth of 12 feet and a maximum depth of 30 feet. The eastern bay is deep water Demizir harbor, where the Gwadar port is being built. Historically, Gwadar was a nodal point of trade between Indus Valley and Mesopotamia, Mesopotamian civilizations for years. In the 15th century, the Portuguese, led by Vasco da Gama, tried to set it on fire. The then Khan of Kalat gifted Gwadar to a Muscat Sultan in 1783. Oman ruled the city for years, and during its regime, Gwadar was an active port. Remnants of structures built by Omanis can be seen around the city even today. In 1958, Gwadar became part of Pakistan when the government formally purchased it from Oman at the cost of $3 million. Incidentally, Oman actually offered this port to India, and India did not take the opportunity to buy it, so Pakistan did it. Gwadar has come a long way from being just a telegraph station with a lonely, stunted tree in the 19th century or an underdeveloped fishing village in the 20th to potentially becoming one of the great cities of the world in the 21st century. According to Robert Kaplan, if we can think of a great place names of the past, Carthage, Thebes, Troy, Samarkand, Angkor Wat, and of the present, Dubai, Singapore, Tehran, Beijing, Washington, then Gwadar should qualify as a great place name of the future. However, he warns that one key to Pakistan's fate would be future of Gwadar, whose development will either unlock the riches of Central Asia or plunge Pakistan into a savage and potentially terminal civil war. He adds that the history, as I mentioned, Gwadar is a very important fulcrum in Pakistan's geopolitics, commerce, and its economic future. He adds that history is as much a series of accidents and ruined schemes as it of a great plan. Whether Gwadar became a new Silk Route nexus not is tied to Pakistan's own struggle against becoming a failed state. At present, however, such a great place name is conspicuous by its absence. According to Abdul Wali, writer in The Nation in 2016, presently Gwadar has no water, decent schools, hospitals, a college for girls, or even a single university, let alone internet facilities. So, could it be a future megacity? Gwadar's girls study in the boys' college in the evening shift. There is no university. There is a serious water crisis and the desalination plants don't work. Farooq Salim, quoting the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics, wrote in September 2016 that Gwadar had a total of 33,680 housing units, of which only 20% were Pakka. Only 35% had electricity, only 45% had piped water, and the only 0.86% had gas for cooking. Remember, Pakistan gets all its natural gas from Balochistan, and a city in Balochistan doesn't have gas. So, if you understand why the people have gone to so lengths to actually hijack a train and ask release of their political prisoners, fight a brutal war where they know they will die a very painful death, they will see a lot of bad impacts on their family, their future, their siblings, their brothers, still they are doing this. So why they're doing this? This is the reason that the gas of Balochistan is used to actually cook and run factories in Punjab and Sindh, but 0.86% of people of Gwadar have gas. A hospital operated by Gwadar Development Authority has been lying idle for the past 8 years. Gwadar and Oman. In the middle of 18th century, Mir Nasir Khan, the Khan of Kalat, captured Gwadar and its surrounding areas after defeating Gichkis and included it in the Khanat of Kalat. The local Gichki chief was, however, allowed to maintain administrative control of the area in return for providing half the revenues. Meanwhile, Sultan bin Ahmed of the Al Said dynasty of the Muscat escaped to Gwadar from Muscat in 1783 due to an internal power struggle with his brother. On arrival in Gwadar, he asked for Nasir Khan's help. Resultantly, in 1784, Nasir Khan handed over Gwadar to him for his maintenance with the understanding that the area be returned to Kalat when the Sultan acquired the throne of Muscat. Sultan bin Ahmed ascended the throne of Muscat in 1797 but did not return Gwadar to Kalat. Never gives somebody. He appointed a wali, governor, and ordered a fort to be built there. The ensuing struggle of Gwadar between heirs of Sultan bin Ahmed and Khan of Kalat allowed the British to intervene. After extracting concessions from Sultan for the use of the area, the British facilitated Muscat to retain Gwadar. The British built the first ever telegraph link between Karachi and Gwadar in 1863 as part of an Indo-European telegraph. A post office was opened in 1894, and Gwadar became port of call for British steamers and an important base for flying boat operations. Though the Khan of Kalat continued to reiterate their claim on Gwadar, nothing materialized. Since the area was under British control, the British strategic calculations, a foothold on the mainland was critical in case India became unfriendly. Surveys had also indicated the presence of oil in the area, and British realized that Gwadar could be an important port in the future. A British American company, Indian Oil Concessions Limited, was awarded a contract for oil exploration in 1939, but due to the outbreak of Second World War, the work was suspended. The British Foreign Office was also unsure about the independent India joining a Commonwealth, and so felt that it was their interest to keep the area under Muscat, with whom they had exclusive agreements. So why it was not part of Indian Pakistan even after independence in 1947? The agreement not only allowed Britain to use Gwadar for military and other purposes, but also restrained the Sultan from selling or leasing the area under its dominion to any state other than Britain. Thus, even after creation, Pakistan had to approach the British government for purchase of Gwadar rather than talk directly with Muscat as two sovereign governments. In 1954, Pakistan engaged the United States Geological Survey to conduct survey of its coastline. The USGS deputed surveyors Worth Conrick for the survey, who identified the hammerhead-shaped peninsula of Gwadar as a natural and suitable site for a new deep-sea port. This prompted Pakistan to start pressing for the return of Gwadar. Britain continued to discourage the deal till August 1958, when it finally allowed the transfer of Gwadar through a secret agreement. The agreement paved the way for purchase of Gwadar from the Sultan and several concessions. According to agreement, if oil was found in commercial quantities in Gwadar, the government of Pakistan was bound to pay a percentage of total revenue to the Sultan. Other other provisions included retention of citizenship of Muscat by the citizens of Gwadar without prejudice to any rights enjoyed as citizens of Pakistan. Facilitation of facilitation in recruitment from the area for the Sultan's armed forces, training and facilities for military personnel in Pakistan's technical schools, etc. Gwadar formally became part of Pakistan in 7 September 1958 after 174 years of Omani rule. Addressing the nation on radio, Pakistan, on the occasion, Prime Minister Malik Feroz Khan Noon stated, I welcome the residents of Gwadar into the Republic of Pakistan, and I would like to assure them that they will enjoy equal rights and privileges which they do not have, as we have seen from the data, and privileges along with all other Pakistan nationals, irrespective of consideration of religion, caste, or creed. They will have their full share in the glory and prosperity of republic which they now belong. Words, no doubt, that the residents of Gwadar, along with other Baloch, would wince at now. He also thanked the British government for their assistance and help in bringing to a successful conclusion of our negotiations with His Highness the Sultan of Muscat and Oman for the transfer of his rights in the Gwadar. The negotiations were pursued with great vigor during the last 6 months. At every stage, we received valuable advice from Her Majesty's government in the United Kingdom. At the time, Gwadar was a small and underdeveloped fishing village with a population of few thousand. After its incorporation, Gwadar was made a tehsil sub-district of Makran district in the erstwhile West Pakistan province. Later, it would become a district when Makran was upgraded into a division. History of Gawada's development. Since port's acquisition in 1958 from Oman, Pakistan has been making grand plans for its use. During the presidency of Ayub Khan in 1960s, the thinking was to develop Gwadar as an alternate to Karachi. Gwadar, along with the port of Patni to the east, was seen as making Pakistan a great Indian Ocean power. However, given the economic conditions of the country, such plans remained on paper. In 1970s, Ziaul Zede Bhutto unsuccessfully sought to interest the US in the development of the port and offered it to the US Navy. The offer was repeated in 1974, but the US remained disinterested. In 1980, the former chairman of US Joint Chief of Staff, Admiral Thomas Moore, advocated the setting up of a naval base in Gwadar. However, the proposal did not get much traction. In 1980s, the Russian evinced an interest, seeing Gwadar as the warm water outlet to the sea that they had been looking for long. It would have allowed them to export mineral wealth of Central Asia. However, these plans floundered as they were unable to establish control over Afghanistan. In 1988, Belgium tried its hand at developing Gwadar harbor, but the port could not attract much traffic. In 1990s, with the collapse of Soviet Union, there was a scramble to position Gwadar as a transit point for the newly independent Central Asian republics, SCARs. Nawaz Sharif in his first term and Benazir Bhutto in her second term tried to give Gwadar high visibility and build it as a gateway to the CARs, Central Asian republics. Once again, nothing much happened. In this second term, Nawaz Sharif signed an agreement with the China Harbour Engineering Corporation (CHEC) for building the first phase of the Gwadar deep sea port. The plans were, however, derailed following General Pervez Musharraf ousting him in a coup in 1999. The project was finally put on track in May 2001 during the visit of Chinese Premier uh, Zhu Rongji, who approved Chinese funding for developing Gwadar as a deep sea port. As per the agreement, China would provide 250 million and Pakistan 50 million for the construction. The construction work was inaugurated in March 2002. In June 2006, the first phase was ready. The management of the port was handed over to Port of Singapore Authority for 40 years in February 2007. PSA undertook to invest 550 million over 5 years to develop the port further. According to for According to former senator and current member of Balochistan Assembly, Sanaullah Baloch, the government deliberately misled the media and the public to create an impression that the Port of Singapore Authority was taking over Gawadar. However, according to him, the name Port of Singapore Authority does not appear anywhere in the concession agreement signed in 2007. Instead, it was 3 week old. It was a three. So the scams are quite old. Instead, it was 3 week old company PSA Gawadar PT Limited. The company did not even exist at the time of bidding. The bidding was done by its sponsors. The port did not get off to a smooth start. The first ship, Post Glory, then that arrived in March 2008, carrying a wheat shipment from Canada, could not berth. The 14-meter draft at the time of the official opening of the port in March 2007 had reduced to 12.5 meters due to silting. Silting is a problem with ports because what happens when the river dumps its load on the sea, the ports uh, navigability gets down because the silt would actually reduce the depth of the port itself. Another ship had to be hired to unload some of the wheat to lighten the post glory. The then shipping minister, Qamar Zaman Kaira had to confess that the port would take 3 years to become operational as it lacked the required infrastructure, communication network, utilities. Despite this, the port was declared fully functional in December 2008. There was a lot of criticism of the PSA operations. Ultimately, on 30th January 2013, just before the general elections, the PPP government handed over the port operations to China Overseas Port Holding Company. As per the agreement, COPHCL would execute the port's affairs through its three main companies, Gwadar International Terminal, Gwadar Marine Services Limited, and Gwadar Free Zone Company Limited. GIT would be the responsible for handling business-related matters. GMS would provide port services, and GFZ would develop and provide allied facilities to the investment companies in the free zone area. After the formal handover of the free trade zone, only the Chinese authorities would carry out all business affairs of the port. Strategic location. Gwadar's potential is based on its location on Balochistan's Makran coast, some 250 nautical miles from the Strait of Hormuz, through which 40% of the world's oil supply flows. Gwadar is the outlet for the China-Pakistan economic corridor, providing the landlocked Xinjiang province of China with commercial access to the Persian Gulf. Although this is actually told as commercially viable, but the distance between Xinjiang and Gwadar is so great that China's exports through Gwadar is economically unviable. What can be done economically is that China shifting its factories to Pakistan on the route between Gwadar and Xinjiang, establish free trade zones, establish special economic zones, free trade zones, factories, produce goods there, and then use the CPEC belt to actually ship goods to port and from port to in in Arab countries. So that is, but directly exporting from Xinjiang using Gwadar as using CPEC as a transit is not viable economically because it will cost too much. But it has its military strategic importance. So there are many things which goes into this calculation, but not the commercial one. Yeah, province of China with commercial access to Persian Gulf. It also has the potential to become a regional transit hub for transshipment. Transshipment is a very good economic thing. It can work as a transshipment port, but not as a kind of a like you have Karachi, you have Mumbai, you have Mudra, you have Singapore, you have Dubai as a port. So it will not be working in that way. Potential to become a regional transit hub for transshipment of goods for Central Asia, apart from being an alternate to Karachi port. Apart from trade, the port is important and strategic implications for Pakistan. It is located 450 kilometers further from the Indian border than Karachi. At present, Karachi handles the overwhelming bulk of Pakistan's seaborne trade. Further, as it is expected will reduce the congestion at the Karachi, it will also make it that much more difficult for India to blockade it, like it did in 1971 and threatened to do so again during 1999 Kargil crisis. For the same reason, India has built the I think they have one more port. India has a port in Iran. The name I am forgetting. Could you just tell me the name of the port that India has just near Gwadar? Just ah, sorry. Let me see. I think I am in the wrong tree. Okay. Let me just check what happened to the screen sharing. Sharing is happening. Let me reshare it again. In my tab, it is showing as sharing. Is it visible now? Yeah, Chahabar Port. Yes, correct. Chahabar Port. So Chahabar Port is, I think, 100 miles from Gwadar Port. Thank you. Yeah, is the text visible now? Okay. In my screen, it was showing as visible. Not sure what happened with StreamYard, but it was okay. Anyway, sorry for this. We'll be reading another half an hour or 30 minutes more, and then we will maybe continue this next time. Then we will take some also some questions as well. Questions. Let me just reconfirm the share. Yeah, it is now showing. Apart from trade, the port has important strategic implications for Pakistan. It is located 450 kilometers further from the Indian border than Karachi. At present, Karachi handles the overwhelming bulk of Pakistan's seaborne trade. Further, it is expected it will reduce the congestion at the Karachi. It will also make it that much more difficult for India to blockade it, like it did in 1971 and threatened to do so again during 1999 Kargil crisis. Consequently, Gwadar port will provide Pakistan with a crucial strategic depth along its coastline. By making Gwadar a pivot of regional trade, Pakistan claims that it would attract considerable investments into most underdeveloped province, Balochistan. Theoretically, these funds these funds would allow for the construction of roads and rails linking the coastal region to the rest of Pakistan, Iran, and Afghanistan, would exploit the region's vast and unexplored natural resources and would allow for the socio-economic uplift of the local Baloch through various development projects. While sounding good on paper, the reality is quite different, and we will know why. Now we come to Chinese interest. Because China is the current conflict that we see, which was actually started very long ago. The Chinese part is very important in the current conflict that we see today. That it is not only a conflict between the Balochi people and the Pakistan government and state and army. We also see a Chinese interest in Balochistan. And we have seen statements from the Balochi leadership warning China not to interfere and not to invest in Balochistan, not to help the Pakistani army or its government. And if they if China wants to deal with and wants to work in Balochistan, they have to talk to the Balochi leaders, the local people, not the Pakistani army. So China is very important in this regard. Apart from gateway to the Arabian Sea, Gwadar will provide Beijing with a listening post to monitor the strategic sea links as well as military activities of the Indian and American navies in the region. It will also provide, as I mentioned, the Gwadar port is somehow by by fooling people or don't know what they want to do with that thing. The Chinese people and Chinese government and Pakistan want to portray the other port as a kind of a commercially viable port. It may become commercially viable, but the strategic military importance of Gwadar port is much more than that. So Gwadar become a commercial port is going to be a very rare event because the military, strategic, naval advantage that Gwadar provides at the point where it is 250 kilometers from the Strait of Hormuz, where it can monitor. You have the the biggest military base in Qatar. You have the American military presence in UAE, in Saudi Arabia. You will be able to monitor the oil routes. So this strategic implication, the strategic advantage of having Gwadar in your control is so much captivating that making it a commercially viable is something which they need to reconsider. Because when it becomes a commercially viable port, you cannot have the kind of military and naval control that you would like to have in case there's a conflict happens. Yeah. So listening posts to monitor the strategic sea links as well as military activities of the Indian and American navies in the region. It will also provide dual use, remember, dual use civil military facilities that can be used as a base for Chinese ships and submarines. Chinese presence at Gwadar would allow China to ensure the security of its energy related shipments along existing routes. The oil shipments from the Gulf, from the Arabian Sea, from the Strait of Hormuz, would would be a kind of a alternate route. That is one route is where it goes to the Strait of Malacca, where China receives 80% of its energy, oil and gas. So this would give you that insurance that in case of conflict happens, where the Indian and American navies would blockade the Strait of Malacca, China would have an alternate route to actually import energy, and China imports 90% of its energy from outside. So it's a strategic security concern for China itself. So that's why China has invested so much money, knowing that whatever money it invests, the commercial viability or return of this money is far, far away in the future. It will not be having any profits from this investment in the Gwadar port in future times. The Chinese presence at Gwadar would allow China to ensure security of its energy-related shipments along existing routes. A decade ago, when Musharraf offered Gwadar to the Chinese to build a port, the model was Dubai. The Chinese model for Gwadar is the Chinese model for Gwadar is not Dubai but their own port Shenzhen. Zhao Lijing, Zhao Lijiang, the deputy Chinese ambassador to Islamabad, stated, 35 years ago, Shenzhen was just a fishing village like Gwadar. It has been transformed into a modern industrial city. The challenges, however, are immense. Shenzhen's success to a great deal was due to its location next to Hong Kong, whose GDP is greater than Pakistan's. Gwadar is 450 kilometers from the nearest major city, Karachi. Many security analysts see Gwadar as an integral component of the so-called string of pearls strategy of China. Interestingly, the Americans had coined the expression string of pearls and not the Chinese. The US consulate the US consultants Booz Allen produced a report called Energy Future in Asia for the US Defense Department in 2004, and according to the Washington Times, postulated that China is building a strategic relationship along the sea lanes from the Middle East to the South China Sea in ways that suggest defensive and offensive positioning to protect China's energy interests, but also to serve broad security objectives. The report listed two of the pearls as Chittagong and Gwadar. I think in Chittagong, they were able to make some inroads, but then India intervened, and it's not under Chinese control, but the Gwadar is. The Chittagong and Gwadar before speculating about eavesdropping bases, a canal in Thailand, an oil pipeline in Burma, and a railway line in Cambodia. Since then, the string of pearls idea has caught the imagination of the strategist and seen as a strategy to encircle India. The Chinese projects include Sitwe in Myanmar, where India has one more port near that, Chittagong in Bangladesh, Hambantota in Sri Lanka, Marau in the Maldives, and Woody Island near the Parcel. Yuan as legal tender, very important part. In a meeting of senior officials held in Islamabad on 20th November 2017, the Chinese side proposed making yuan legal tender in Gwadar. Hmm. So China becoming a kind of a vassal state of, sorry, Pakistan becoming a vassal state of China is quite good and ongoing. Legal tender in Gwadar. This was indeed intriguing. If it was about helping the yuan become the international currency, why should it be legal tender only in Gwadar and not in the rest of Pakistan? For the present, Pakistan has turned down the proposal, arguing any such move would compromise its economic sovereignty. However, this is clearly not the last that has been heard of the subject. Baloch perspective. As early as 2003, when the construction as early as 2003, when the construction of Gwadar port was in its early stages, there was much public agitation. The HRCP reported that the main grounds of criticism were exclusion of people and their representatives from planning and execution of the projects, denial of due opportunities of employment, apprehensions about the motives of the federal government and the military leadership, land grabbing and fear of change in Makran's political status, and fear of ethnic imbalance in Gwadar, and of the Baloch being turned into a minority in the region. Additional concerns were irregularities in settlement of land titles, neglect of the traditional interest of the fishing communities. Fishing community was fishing is one of the primary bread earners in the Gwadar region. So the port would actually inhibit their way of living, making a living, and also their the way they have lived for many hundred years. Fishing community, indifference to the rights of the people threatened with displacement, inadequate representation of the local people in the new workforce, and the local community's fear of being swamped by settlers from other parts of the country. These very same arguments are heard even today, except that they are more stringent. Clearly, nothing has been done in the past 15 years to address any of these issues. Now we know why the people are up in arms. In a typically ham-handed manner, reflecting the insensitivity and arrogance of the federal government, the ordinary Baloch have been alienated by not being consulted about the project and by not being given a stake in it, and are unlikely to be beneficiaries of the project. The project is run entirely by the federal government, and only a few Baloch have been employed in its construction. These are primarily unskilled labor, though even here a lot of such labor has been imported together with skilled workers like engineers. Gwadar has thus become for the Baloch a symbol of how wrongly they have been treated. There has then there is the issue of control of the port between the provincial and the federal governments. The federal government has been running the show in Gwadar despite the 18th Amendment. People who know Pakistani politics, the 18th Amendment of the Pakistani Constitution is a landmark event in the political governance of Pakistan. So, in Gwadar, despite the 18th Amendment devolution of powers to provinces, some crumbs have been given to the provincial governments, like making its nominee the chairman of the port authority. However, critical decision remains with the federal government. Therefore, the Baloch feel threatened by the project. As the Baloch National Party (BNP) chief Sardar Akhtar Mengal put it, the rights of Baloch people cannot be protected, and the dream of prosperous Balochistan cannot cannot come true unless the control of Gwadar port is handed over to the provinces. The revelations about the details of the 40-year agreement with China for the operations of the Gwadar port has further increased criticism in Balochistan. The then Minister for Ports and Shipping, Mir Hasil Khan Bizenjo, informed the Senate that under the agreement, the Chinese company Chinese Overseas Port Holding Company would carry out all the development work on the port and, as per concessions agreement, would be entitled to 91% of the revenue collection from the gross revenue of terminal and marine operations and 85% of the gross revenue of free zone operations. The balance would be share of the federal government, with Balochistan getting no revenue from the port till 2048. Around the same time, Sri Lanka handed over its southern port of Hambantota to China on a 99-year lease. This had to be done after it failed to repay its debts to China. This development also rang alarm bells in Pakistan in general and Balochistan in particular. The fear that Gwadar will eventually meet the same fate as Hambantota if Pakistan failed to repay the Chinese debts. Baloch nationalists feel that the project will adversely alter Balochistan's demography due to the influx of non-Baloch to take up prime jobs and make them a minority in their own province. However, figures vary. According to Gwadar Development Authority, as per the plan, the existing 80,000 population, mostly fishermen, will be joined by another 2 million from over the next 20 years, including 20,000 Chinese residents. However, the Baloch apprehend that the Gwadar, from its current population, will become a city of 10 million people, bringing major changes in the demography of the province. Baloch fears were confirmed by the advertisement in the national and even international media inviting investment into Gwadar city that was initially visualized for 2.5 million people but later raised to 5 million. Given the entire population of Balochistan, including Pashtuns, is about 6 million, Baloch apprehensions of being converted into a minority in their own homeland and their identity being eroded are clearly justified. Such fears have been enhanced due to announcement by the China-Pakistan Investment Corporation at a press conference held in London in October 2017 of a mega housing project, China Park Hills in Gwadar. The CEO of the corporation, Jianzheng, disclosed plans to finance $500 million in the first phase of the housing project, in which almost half a million white-collar Chinese would reside by 2023. The development project would encompass over 10 million square feet of built-up area. It would be mixed-use gated development tailor-made for Chinese professionals in Gwadar, offering an all offering an all-encompassing lifestyle to live, work, play, with host of facilities that would set the benchmark for future development. However, the federal government has called the report bogus, denying that the Gwadar Port Authority had given any such permission. Nevertheless, the CPIC has put forward documentary evidence depicting the possession of no objection certificate with the company from concerned authority. The Baloch are aware of the history of Karachi, the capital of Sindh. It had a Sindhi population of 0.5 million in 1947, but now it has more than 14 million people. Almost 90% of them are non-Sindhis, rendering Sindhis a minority in their capital city. Currently, Balochistan has 51 member provincial assembly in every aspect. Even the chief minister will be an outsider, fears Baloch Senator Dr. Jabaz, doc, Dr. Jahazev Jamaldi of the BNP. Thus, what the Baloch want are legislative guarantees like banning outsiders from getting local computerized national identity cards, CNICs, domicile certificates, and registration as voters for preserving the current demographics. According to Ataullah Mengal, if there are jobs in Gwadar, people would flock there, Pakistanis and foreigners alike, with time they would get the right to vote. The problem is that one Karachi in Gwadar is sufficient to turn the whole population of Balochistan into a minority. Gwadar will end up sending more members to the parliament than the rest of Balochistan. We would lose our identity, our language, everything. That's why we are not willing to accept these mega projects. Recognizing the threat, Pakistan's Senate in January 2019 called the geographic balance and ownership rights of the local population of the Gwadar and prohibited large-scale migration into Gwadar in the wake of CPC projects. However, at the time of writing, nothing seems to have been done in this regard. As Gwadar is being connected to Karachi, but there are apprehensions that the federal government is dragging its feet connecting Gwadar through Turbat, Panjur, Panjgur, Khuzar to Quetta. Consequently, the rest of province will not derive much benefit from the project. This is making the people restive as they feel that they are being converted into a landlocked province despite having the longest coastline in the country. Hence, its own people have become port's greatest opponents. As Kaplan notes, the poor and uneducated Baloch population had been shut out of Gwadar's future prosperity, and so Gwadar became a lightning rod of Baloch hatred for Punjabi-ruled Pakistan. Indeed, Gwadar's very promise as an Arabian Sea Central Asian hub threatened to sunder the country. Not surprisingly, when the former planning minister Ahsan Iqbal announced grandiosely that Gwadar will revolutionize the life of Baloch people at a function in January 2018, there were very few takers. Water. Lack of drinking water is key issue of Gwadar. While Gwadar is touted as the key that would unlock Pakistan's fortunes, the only key the residents of Gwadar today are looking for is adequate supply of drinking water. According to official estimate, the average per capita water requirement is around 18 gallons per day. On the basis, Gwadar needed around 5.5 million gallon water in 2012 and 6 million by end of 2017. The main source of supply is Accra Dam, which could supply about 3 to 3.5 million gallons to Gwadar and adjoining areas, including Jewani, Peshkan, Surbandar, Gans, and Balnagor. The requirement of 6 million was when the city had not yet expanded fully. As and when the city booms, the requirement for water will rise manifold due to the various projects and massive increases in population. The requirement for a 2.5 million population to supply 150 million gallon of water could Gwadar, however, is an arid area known for persistent droughts due to periodic paucity of rain, and the Accra Dam dried up in 2012 and the water crisis continued for about 175 days, easing only after rains in the catchment area of the dam. Due to water shortage, the residents were forced to depend on private water tankers that cost 15,000 rupees per tanker at the peak of the water crisis. 1 gallon of water was sold for 1,000 Pakistani rupees. In September 2017, the price was at least 70,000 per tanker or 6 rupees for 1 gallon of water. The tankers fetched water from the Belar Dam, a catchment area getting water from the Derab mountain facing the Iranian border on its west. These tankers made 27 trips a month, barring Fridays, to provide water to the residents of Surbandar, Peshkan, Gwadar, and Jiwani. The crisis turned so bad that the Pakistan Navy had to ship in around 300,000 gallons of water in two tankers. In December 2015, the water level in Accra Dam dropped drastically and the water crisis once again hit Gwadar. It continued for 80 days till March 2016. Water shortage again hit the city in December 2016 and ended up in January 2017, lasting for 40 days. To overcome this crisis, authorities supplied water to the people through tankers at cost of 1 billion Pakistani rupees. Okay, let me see. I had one more chapter which I wanted to actually read. This is something we wanted to read. The last chapter we read today, the separatist challenge. So this is the final chapter we'll read today, and this talks about the current conflict that we have today. So we know the economic reason, we know the political reason, we know where the people come from, their history, their culture. Now the final part, the challenge that the Baloch people have thrown to the Pakistani state and the Pakistani army, and now we know the reason why it happened. Now how it is happening. The separatist challenge. We have a distinct civilization. We have a distinct civilization. We have a separate culture like that of Iran and Afghanistan. We are Muslims, but not we are Muslims, but it is not necessary that by virtue of our being Muslims, we should lose our freedom and merge with others. The cultural identity, the linguistic identity, the customs that they have. The Baloch people have their own customs. So, virtue of being Muslims, we should not lose our freedom and merge with others. If mere fact that we are Muslims requires us to join Pakistan, then Afghanistan and Iran, both Muslim countries, should also amalgamate with Pakistan. Pakistan's unpleasant and loathsome desire that our national homeland, Balochistan, should merge with, with it is impossible to conceive. It is unimaginable to agree to such a demand. We are ready to have friendship with that country on the basis of sovereignty, sovereign equality, but by no means ready to merge with Pakistan. We can survive without Pakistan. We can prosper outside Pakistan. But the question is what Pakistan would do without us. We want an honorable relationship, not a humiliation. We want an honorable relationship, not a humiliating one. If Pakistan wants to treat us as a sovereign people, we are ready to extend the hand of friendship and cooperation. If Pakistan does not agree to do so, flying in the face of democratic principles, such an attitude will be totally unacceptable to us. And if we are forced to accept this fate, then every Baloch son will sacrifice his life in defense of his national freedom. Mir Ghaus, Mir Ghaus Baksh Bizenjo. Bizenjo remarks were to prove prophetic. Bizenjo's remarks were to prove prophetic. Festering alienation has been transformed into violent insurgency periodically in 1948, in 1958, 1962, 1973, 77, and since the early 2000s. The response of the state to each insurgency has fueled the next. Yeah, I'll take the questions. I'll just finish this last part because this is the most interesting part. So then we will discuss this. Moderates and separatists. The Baloch nationalist movement is not a single unified one. The nationalists can be grouped into two categories. The moderates who seek maximum provincial autonomy within Pakistan. They believe in the political process, dialogue, and participation in elections to achieve their demands. The separatists who seek independence from Pakistan, for them, the time for a political process, a dialogue with government, or taking the parliamentary route is long over. They have put their faith in militant means to achieve their objectives. Given the centralizing policies of government, both moderates and separatists have a common meeting ground in asserting a distinct Baloch identity and expressing frustration with Pakistan over its failure to acknowledge the historical identity of the Baloch people. In fact, given the popularity of insurgency, even the moderate elements have had to adopt a hard line, harder line. at least rhetorically, rhetorically, or else lose support of their constituencies. As early as 2006, former Chief Minister of Balochistan, Balochistan National Party elder statesman Ataullah Mengal had to declare that the days to fight political battles are over. Later, he told Abida Hussain, a politician from South Punjab, that his heart still beats for Pakistan. He hoped that the heart of his sons and grandsons would beat for the same way. But he suspected that their hearts were soaring, and an assassination of Nawab Akbar Bukti was a wound inflicted on the hearts of all Baloch, including himself. Just to reminder, so Nawab Akbar Bukti was assassinated in Balochistan, and Parvez Musharraf was then the dictator president of Pakistan. So there was an insurgency going on at his time, and Mr. Musharraf has actually used military force to kill him. And he's talking about this specific incident, that he hoped that the heart of his sons and grandsons would beat in the same way, but he suspected that their hearts were soaring, and the assassination of Nawab Akbar Bukti was a wound inflicted on the hearts of all Baloch, including himself. In January 2006, Nawab Bukti, a former governor and head of Jamhuri Watan Party, had said the denial of democratic rights and economic deprivation have compelled people to take up arms. It is war now, and it is war now. The difference between the difference between the ideologies of two groups is that the Baloch political parties continue to pin their hopes on a political solution and on a constitutional path. The militants, on the other hand, faced with continued suppression and betrayal by the Pakistan state, have taken to violence to prevent further extraction of their resources and to raise the economic cost for Islamabad. In trying to do so, consequently, pipelines and installations have become prime targets, disrupting gas supplies all over the country. The variance between the militants and the nationalist parties, said Sardar Akhtar Mengal, was that the former do not think they can achieve anything through democratic and constitutional means, while the Baloch nationalists are still optimistic about engaging in a democratic process. They are increasingly frustrated. The students perhaps best represent the dilemma. The HRCP reported in 2011 that students groups in particular were insistent that the Baloch had no option but to demand independence from Pakistan. Many of the political groups did not support violence as part of a struggle for independence, but were very clear that the struggle was legitimate and that their right to self-determination should be part of the political discourse on Balochistan. There were, however, those who felt that violence was justified as part of the struggle for an independent Balochistan in the face of aggression and repression by the security forces in the province. The, the representatives of one such group that met with the mission were extremely bitter because of what they saw as injustice by Punjab. The moderate case. The major grievances of the moderate Baloch nationalists include the following. Pakistan's political system is not democratic and representative of the people, but is dominated by a single ethnic community, the Punjabis. So the conflict between the Punjabis, the Sindhis, the Pashtuns, and the Balochis. The Baloch are not represented in power structure at Islamabad. Institutions of state are okay. Uh, perpetrating excess against the Baloch people, perpetrating excesses against the Baloch people, political activists in particular, leading to the killings, arbitrary arrests, enforced disappearance, and humiliation. The enforced disappearance is a major human rights challenge for the state of Pakistan, where we have seen people who have been disappeared and not been seen for 30 days, 30 years. The Islamabad establishment is not trustworthy as it has backed out of its promises time and again and killed Baloch leaders, including Akbar Bukti. The Baloch do not have control over their resources and Punjab has been exploiting them for decades. Balochistan needs political autonomy and control over natural and economic resources and not mere financial relief package. The Pakistani establishment is patronizing the Taliban movement and has helped them establish their sanctuaries in Baloch areas with a view of pitting them against the Baloch. Based on these grievances, the key demands of the moderates are provincial control over the resources of the province, ending economic exploitation, insisting that development projects like Gwadar Port are linked with local ownership and benefit, devolving genuine provincial autonomy to the province, empowering the provincial government so that the crucial decisions on issues like law and order and mega projects are not monopolized by military. For example, as a Baloch leader said, we want to live as an equal partner in the federation with our democratic rights respected, including the ownership of our resources. These resources belong to the people of Pakistan. The growing disenchantment among moderates, however, visible. For example, according to the late Baloch leader Habib Jalil Habib Jalib Baloch, our main demand is that right of self-determination and self-rule. We appeal to the United Nations and other international organizations to help us. We want peaceful resolution of our dispute with Pakistan to avoid bloodshed. We urge UN to send peacekeeping forces here to expel Pakistani forces from this region and then start talks for peaceful settlement of the issue. Likewise, HRCP mission that visited Balochistan in 2011 noted that absence of political discourse amongst the political elements in the province. Some of them even told the mission that time for politics was over. And now, even within the province, there was a polarization of views whether politics in the context of, context of Pakistan was any relevance. One reason for this, of course, is that due to political engineering under General Musharraf, the alliance of religious parties known as Muttahida Majlis Amal (MMA) dominated politics in Balochistan between 2002 and 2008. Then the major nationalist parties of the province boycotted 2008 elections, which resulted in their non-representation in the national and provincial assemblies between 2008 and 2013. Due to this moderate political vacuum, the separatists who were opposed to parliamentary politics got greater legitimacy. Moderate political parties. The key moderate political parties are the Balochistan National Party (BNP). It was formed by Sardar Ataullah Mengal, the head of Mengal tribe, as a result of the merger of Mengal's own Balochistan National Movement and Ghaus Baksh Basenjo's Pakistan National Party (PNP). While Ataullah Mengal's son Sardar Akhtar Mengal now leads the party, the BNP Central Executive Committee has very few Sardars. Its demands include maximum provincial autonomy and increase in Balochistan's share of revenue from provincial resources and limiting the federal government's authority to four subjects: defense, foreign affairs, currency, and communication. Akhtar Mengal had stated, "It is not the government's writ that has been challenged. It is the writ of the people which is challenged." Musharraf had targeted Akhtar Mengal, who was imprisoned in November 2006 on terrorism charges. During the trial, he was subjected to humiliating confinement in the courtroom in a cage-like structure that prevented any contact with his lawyers. In 2012, Akhtar Mengal presented a six-point agenda for the peaceful resolution of the Baloch conflict. These included immediate suspension of all overt and covert military operations in Balochistan, protection of all missing persons before a court of law. This is a long-standing demand of the people of Balochistan. that people who have been kidnapped by the Pakistani army and security forces, they need to be produced in the court. It's been an unlawful detention for over decades. Disbanding of the all proxy death squads operating under the supervision of the inter-service intelligence and military intelligence, allowing the Baloch political parties to function freely, and rehabilitation of displaced person as a confidence-building measure. Following July 2018 elections, the BNP decided to support the ruling party in Islamabad. Imran Khan's Pakistan's Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI) on the basis of six-point agreement. The key element of this was addressing the issue of missing persons on a priority basis. The National Party (NP) was formed with the merger of Balochistan National Movement and the Balochistan National Democratic Party. It is led by Abdul Malik Baloch, who was the chief minister of the province from 2013 to 2015, in coalition with the PMLN. It is a moderate It is a moderate center-left Baloch nationalist party that claims to represent middle class. It has usually participated in the electoral process but boycotted 2008 elections. It strongly opposed the central government's projects in the Makran belt such as Gwadar Port without Baloch participation. Demands that the Baloch should have the right to control their own resources and determine their own priorities. Political economic. With its educated non-tribal cadre, the National Party is opposed to the Sardari system, yet it rejects the Musharraf government's claim that the Sardars are solely responsible for all of Balochistan's ills. Instead, the National Party places the blame for the crisis squarely on the military's shoulders. The Jamhuri Watan Party, it was formed by Nawab Akbar Khan Bukti in 1990. The JWP support base is largely limited to the Bukti tribe. However, his defiant stand against the government in his later years had won him support of many other Baloch. Defending Nawab Bukti, Sardar Akhtar Mangal insisted if Bukti was a turncoat, he would not be in the mountains. He could have made a deal with Musharraf, which he did not. After Bukti's killing, he is seen as a martyr of the Baloch cause. Okay, I think it's almost now more than 2 hours. So we will read the other part of the book and also few other books as well in our second session of this podcast. Now we'll take a few questions. So now let me check if there are any questions. Hmm. Vikhyat Verma. Couldn't Dravidian separatists use the same logic? How do we counter that? You are talking about the language, the culture. See, we need to remember one thing that the Baloch movement of freedom. If you see the read what we have seen as a confederation, yeah, I got your point. See, the Baloch people are saying that as is India, India as a confederation, communication, military, finance, and foreign affairs is with the center, and everything else is with the states. So you have a concurrent list, you have an exclusive list. So apart from these four things, military, defense, communication, and currency, everything is under the concurrent list. So the Baloch people are not saying, and they have been demanding this for last 50 years. It is, if you can see that the insurrection has taken place over 7 times from 47, 48, 68. It has been going on, and for over 50 years, the Pakistani army, the Punjabi army, has committed genocides, committed war crimes against the people of Balochistan. After this 50 years of this violent interaction, people would want, I don't want to deal with you anymore. On the other hand, if you see, the the Northeast, the Mizoram, the Nagaland issue that that we had seen. So the Mizoram issue, the Naga issue is even pre-independence. But the way the Indian government dealt with those issues while negotiating with them in a political negotiation, that's the important part. The Pakistani state, the Pakistani army is not interested in a political settlement. It is interested in extracting the resources of these people, and via political engineering, they are trying to make sure that the Baloch people become the minority in their own land. So that is a problem. I hope you were able to address your concerns. Okay. Boshali, there are also delusional. There are transition culture between Indic and Iranian civilization. Pakistan's stupidity is another level. They still don't know if they are from the planet or not. Yeah, that, yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, Slevin, welcome again, welcome back.
Hey, hi. So, do you think we should, as India, try to help the Baloch, or are you of the view that it's okay, it's not our problem? Maybe if they put some pressure in Pakistan, just use them, use the Baloch as a proxy to, you do Kashmir, we do Balochistan, as maybe Mr. Doval said. So just that, or do you think there is a ground to maybe have some friendly relations, and then because Balochistan does have access to sea, so if we have friendly relations with them, it might help us in the future also.
See, so to answer your question is very difficult. Okay, but like if you have any background on IR, okay, how the states work with each other. Okay, and so you have a nation state. Under nation state, you have their organs. So you have military, you have a foreign affairs department, you have other departments work together. So nation state is has uh, its own beast together. Okay, so a lot of things which happen at the nation state level, which we will never know what's happening, how it's happening, and we should not know. Like we should not know everything what's happening around the year.
Good.
But whatever I know from reading books and other things. Okay, so in a nation state concept, you do not have a concept of a friendly state or an enemy state. It's a transition between both of them. It's like a superposition in terms of quantum mechanics, quantum physics. So a state can become a friendly with you at some point of time, and at some point of time it will become unfriendly with you. So it is not a constant. So depending on the time and circumstances and your interests, you will decide who is a friendly state to you, who is a non-friendly state to you, and who is a neutral to you. So it's a very complex decision which people take, and it takes over a long time. Okay. So every country would spy on every other country. That's how it operates. Whether friends, not friends, neutral, doesn't really matter. But at the policy level, this is something which will be taken care by the foreign services, the military, intelligence, and other agencies. So if you read books on raw, or you can read. Let me just give you one thing. I think this will be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just getting the book where I kept it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm here.
This book is very important. I plan to read this, but not getting enough time to actually. get to the heart of
If
it.
you can just tell me the name.
It is it is called the Ultimate Goal by Mr.
Okay,
Vikram Sood. Actually, I had the
okay.
book, but I changed few things here and there, and now I can't find it. Anyway, okay, I got it. I got it now. Yeah. So this is the book, The Ultimate Goal. So you will get this the ultimate goal. A former raw chief deconstructs how nation constructs a narrative by Vikram Sood. So this book,
Okay.
if you read, you will understand how nation states operates at the policy level, and a policy level means the policy will be created and it will be implemented in over a decade, 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades.
So, and that's the point because so India has been really hot and cold with them. So there seems to not be any coherent policy with them because when we had 2611 in 2008, I
Hmm.
mean, this is from Abhijit Iyer Mitra. From what he was saying is, then Chidambaram
Hmm.
just lit a fire in Balochistan, started supplying them with all sorts of weapons and everything. And then after a while,
Hmm. Hmm.
reached deal with Pakistan, we reached, and then we stopped it. So now they were screwed and they
Exact.
were complaining.
Ex-
So no
Exactly,
friends.
exactly. So that's why I mentioned it. So exactly. So like in a nation-state relationship, there is no permanent enemy. There is no permanent friend. It's all in transition.
Yeah, so
So
basically just use them as leverage.
yeah. So if you read reports regarding Bangladesh and what has came about in various circles, the Bangladesh 5th August coup was engineered with money from a third country, okay, with infrastructure and manpower from one country, and supported by another third country, and everybody was trying to get their own power in between. So sometimes countries would actually cooperate. Like there are many instances where actually China and India actually cooperated in many aspects when both of their interests merged together. In many times,
Yeah,
China and India would vote for a political decisions in UN as one.
yeah, the
But on
climate
the other issues,
as
they
well.
would,
Yeah,
yeah. So in that context, it is not black and white. It is very very gray. Okay, it's like a
true,
electron cloud chamber.
true. Nice talking to
Yeah.
you.
Let's
And
see.
see you. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Okay. Bye bye. A tiny place like Balochistan cannot be a civilization. They don't understand it, what a civilization means. Mm, maybe I'm not sure exactly how they would define it, but let's see. We will read more about it. We will know. Yes, Tamil civilization needs saving by a person, Stalin, who wants to convert the Dravidians to Christianity, which is just a poor copy of the Western identity. Well said. Yes, Vaishalidhi. It's interesting that the okay North and Kashmir issue has been used by the West to destabilize India, but the Balochistan issue has never been raked up by the West or United States. Not really. Switzerland hosts the Baloch leaders. Okay. Who funds them? We don't know really who is funding, because the Balochi leaders, the Balochi leader in exile, is in living in Switzerland for almost 20 years, 2 or 3 decades. So it is complex. There are no friends in geopolitics, only strategies. There are permanent enemies, though no emotions in geopolitics. Hence, the whole idea of Indo-Pak People's Republic is just yeah. I agree with you completely. Absolutely. So we will end our conversation here with the brilliant comment from Boshali. The ultimate strategy is to do stuff only for the betterment of your own country, of your own country. Your country is for your people. Correct. Absolutely correct, Boshali. And I agree with you 100% on this part. So on this note, we will end our session today. It was a very a kind of session with interesting people came in and comments came, and we also had a one new guest who came in to share his views and shared some very interesting information regarding the Balochi people itself. So it was a wonderful session. We learned a few new things today. We will try to understand. I'll find few more books and papers where we will learn more about the Baloch crisis and how it's shaping up, how it was there and how it's shaping up now. Maybe also we'll invite some people to talk about it. I'll try to get some guests to give a more info on this. Till then, a happy Holi, a Shubho Holi to everybody, a Shubho Do Jada to everybody, and Namaste, Jai Shri Ram.